Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're here in South Las Vegas at another Toys R Us. You know, another at least a couple of hundred of employees out of a job, not counting all those extra jobs that people count on making their money for Christmas. That's not even calculated into the 33,000 that lost their job. You know, there's people that every Christmas season from September on work, you know, for the buildup. And the reason why Toys R Us is gone is because the people that did the leverage buyout, Bain Capital, Vernado Realty, KKR, and I still don't know how KKR, you know, was involved in it. I don't have the details about that. But I know that KKR had Scott Hinken with them. Scott Hinken was the bondholder in eToys, a manager, Fir Tree Value Fund. And then Scott Hinken, when D.E. Shaw bought eToys from KB bankruptcy, Scott Hinken floated from eToys to the KB bankruptcy to the parent company and D.E. Shaw and then KKR. And now he's independently on his own, you know, because I haven't nailed his butt yet. But he knew about the Barry Gold, Paul Traub fraud in the eToys case. He said he gave his off-the-record permission. And I said, you know, that's like Al Capone said, I said it's so and it happens and I don't go by the law, so, you know, that's off the record. Which is all bullshit. The issue here is that Bain Capital and Romney can't be creditors in Toys R Us because they got there by fraud. And when you got there by fraud, you're not entitled to be compensated. It's just that simple. The thing is that Romney's running for senator, and everybody knows that's a stepping stone to run against Trump in 2020 for president for the Republican Party nomination again. And he thinks he can seal the deal since Trump's gang stole 7 million votes by blocking 7 million people. They think that they can make it happen again. If you paid attention when Romney ran against Paul, every morning that Paul thought he had the votes cemented in for the primary, he'd wake up the next morning, they'd be gone. And he went following Romney around like a limp puppy dog. That's the thing is that they steal from the bunch of us and they fight us individually, and instead of fighting us collectively, like the Toys R Us employees should be together. Right now, GE has a big fight going on the WARN Act. And the WARN Act is an issue where if you have more than 200 employees let go at one time, you have to give them 60-day notice, 60 days, the current salary that they had and the current benefit schedule that they had. And nobody's addressed this. On top of that, nobody's addressed that Mitt Romney and Bain Capital are to be expunged by equitable subordination. That's bankruptcy rule 510C. If you have a bad faith creditor, the judge in the bankruptcy case can move them to the end of it or expunge them altogether, which in my opinion, that should be done because Mitt Romney and Bain Capital are a racketeering enterprise and Goldman Sachs is their partner. And they got through the Learning Company merger with Mattel, cost Mattel $4 billion loss, but they got Romney's contingency 12 million shares of Mattel, which put him on the inside track to have insider knowledge. This way they could help coerce probably things to wind up bankrupt and get the first in where Mattel wouldn't allow anybody else to bid. You know, that's the way that the deals go. All that's being said is that it's so messy. There's people dead. The brother of a U.S. attorney was involved. Romney was involved in the FAO Schwartz case, the Zany Brainy case. eToys and KB Toys were bankrupt multiple times. And again, for the third and fourth time with the bankruptcy of Toys R Us. And unless we get together as a unified voice and get these things collectively pointed out, if everybody just tries to get their own, these guys will just skate by. They've got no legal obligation outside of the fraud to give the workers any money other than the WARN Act. And right now, I don't see that happening in the case. though I'm going to try to find a way to mention it to the judge, because they're also got my e-toys, which they stole, and the judge should set that aside, or at least money for that aside. Ladies and gentlemen, they can get away with it when you allow them to do it, because you think that courts are on our side, and they're not. The courts engage in color of law. They act like they're going by the law, and because you don't study it, they tout this term and tout that situation and say it's too long, too much, or you should have done it earlier. You know, all of it's bullshit. When there's fraud involved, the fraudsters aren't allowed to profit, and we know that. You know, and Tom Petter's Ponzi thing, which both Goldman Sachs and Bain Capital, Mitt Romney were involved in, and Tom Petter's Ponzi, the nuns got a donation from Tom Petter's for their handicap elevator, and the receiver came after him and made a deal with him about that. And Romney's taken the and I believe it's billions, not hundreds of millions, the billions that he stole with Bain Capital, and he's taking that money and building a 3-car elevator garage. And again, that's rubbing it in our faces how he can steal and get away with it, because he's allowed to retroactively retire from his organized crimes, and that's bullshit. We got to stop it, right, people? Yeah, we got to stop it.
Well said. Well said.